Committee of Parole is called back to order. The time is 1:13. Our next case is Mr. Jeremy Dubourg. Mr. Dubourg, would you please give us your full name and DOC number, please?
Jeremy Michael Dubourg, 744136.
Mr. Dubourg, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who wish to speak to have their input. Currently here today, speaking in opposition is Dr. Robert Melton and Vicki Johnston. At the end of that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to make a statement to the board, and then we'll vote. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Dubourg, this is Jeremy Dubourg, 744136. Date of birth is June the 8th of 1978. He's a second-class offender. He has a parole eligibility date of July 28th of 2022, an adjusted good time date of March the 15th of 2026, a full term date of January the 29th of 2027. He is currently serving a 6-year sentence on the charge of domestic abuse battery or battery upon a dating partner after having been adjudicated a habitual offender. His date of sentencing is March the 10th of 2022. Mr. Laborde, is all of those things accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Laborde, your case has been assigned to me to begin our interview process, so I'll start our process. Mr. Dubourg, how old are you, sir?
45 years old.
And how long have you been in prison on these particular charges?
2.5 years.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background. How far did you go to school?
I got a GED from college and went through Navy training.
Where did you get your GED and when did you get your GED?
My GED I received shortly after dropping out of high school. So I would say age of 18.
All right. And some college. Where'd you go to college?
Delgado.
Okay. And you said you were in the Navy?
Yes, sir.
How long were you in the Navy?
4 years.
And were you honorably discharged?
No, sir.
What was your discharge? How did you get out of the Navy?
Other than honorable, sir.
What happened and why?
I was in possession of drug paraphernalia.
Well, let's talk a little bit about drugs. Is drugs, alcohol an issue with you?
No, sir.
You've had two DWIs. You don't think alcohol is an issue?
That was roughly 20 years ago, sir. That's no longer a part of my life.
Well, when did you start drinking?
My late teens.
And how much were you drinking when you had your DWIs? How often were you drinking when you had your DWIs?
Usually on the weekends, 2-3 days on the weekends.
When did you quit drinking?
Well, upon my incarceration, I would have a drink on occasion, but it wasn't anything that was habitual or a regular part of my life.
How about drugs?
No, sir.
Well, you kicked out of the Navy because of drug paraphernalia. Let's talk about that.
Yes,
You've never had a drug problem? You never did drugs before?
it was something that was in my property. When I moved all my property out of storage to my permanent duty station in Florida, it was there, and I got caught with it. It wasn't part of my service.
Your evaluation that the Department of Corrections do for you indicates that you're a low risk to offend, but it also says that you have very high substance abuse needs. Why do you think that is if alcohol and drugs aren't an issue with you?
Say again, I have very high.
Needs for substance abuse treatment. Tell me why that might be, or what you might have said, or what might have happened to have them make that decision.
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about this particular offense that occurred on January the 18th of 2021. Tell me what happened.
Her and I had been arguing for a while.
Let's talk about her. Who is her?
Vicky Johnston.
And what was your relationship with her at the time?
I was her boyfriend.
Y'all were currently in a relationship, or had y'all broken up?
We had broken up, gotten back together, broken up, gotten back together. It was an ongoing cycle.
Was she the victim in your first domestic abuse battery charge?
No, sir.
That was a different victim. We'll get to that later, but that was a different victim.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what happened in this particular case.
At the time, I was dealing with a terminally ill mother. And her and I had had a falling out. And
Her meaning your mother or your girlfriend?
my mother.
Okay.
Vicky told me that she couldn't be with somebody who didn't have a good relationship with their mother. We argued about that, and it eventually came to a point to where I had agreed to go and try and reconcile with my mother. That ended the Saturday night. Sunday morning, I woke up and received a call that I had lost my job. We decided to spend the day together. We went to watch a football game, and in the process of the football game, she left. At that point, I tried to force her to talk to me. I tried to exert control over the situation.
Tell me how you tried to force her to talk to you.
Incessantly texting her, calling her, threatening to get her a noise complaint evicted from her apartment.
Let me stop you just for a second. Let's talk a little bit now about the previous domestic abuse battery charge you had. Did you go to prison for that charge?
No, sir.
I'm sorry?
No, sir.
You were put on probation?
Correct, sir. That completed early, and
I'm sorry?
I said, yes, sir, and I completed that early.
Well, I hear you, but I want to talk to you a little bit about that. I assume that the judge in that case required you to go to some sort of domestic violence program or take some sort of treatment for the battery charge. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What did you learn in that program about domestic abuse battery and controlling activities and that sort of thing? What did you learn in that?
It's often a cycle of abuse. One thing leads to another.
So why were we continuing to do this with the victim in this case?
I really don't have a good explanation of that other than extenuating circumstances.
Oh. So go ahead. What happened after that? I mean, I've got the police report. I've seen the answers. I've seen you've been convicted of this. You've been adjudicated as a habitual offender. Today is the day for you to come clean. The victim is here. She's going to tell us what happened. So come clean with me.
I went to her apartment and, repeatedly banged on her door, texted her, called her. She showed up, and when we went in the house and when we started talking, the police showed up and escorted me out. Then I came back, and that's when I put my hands on her throat. When I released her, she went and she threw my clothes out the window.
When you say you put your hands on her throat, you were choking, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
You were trying to strangle. So, I mean, let's be honest here today about what you did.
Okay.
And why was that? Why were you doing it?
I was angry.
And you were angry at her because
I was being rejected.
you were what?
I was being rejected.
And so then what happened?
And she threw my clothes out the window. I grabbed her laptop and threatened to throw her laptop out the window if she didn't go and get my clothes. So she left. She went to go get my clothes. I followed her out. We exchanged clothes for laptop. I went back to the apartment. She did not. I ended up falling asleep, and when I woke up, the police were there, and I was arrested.
So tell me, this is the second time this happened. So tell me what happened in the first domestic abuse battery case. What was that about? What were the facts of that case?
She attacked me, and in defense of myself, I put her in a stranglehold and got away from the situation. I accepted full responsibility for that by letter of law. I thought I was protecting myself and avoiding the situation. But by the letter of the law, it was strangulation. So I took the offense and took the probation.
And then you come back and do the same thing again a few years later, after having been ordered to do a domestic violence program and to understand what's going on with you.
Yes.
What programs have you taken while you've been in prison?
I've taken pre-release, anger management. I'm in the process of taking victim impact, job life skills, IC3 computer literacy, NCCER core curriculum, and I'm EETC certified for small engine electrical.
So what have you learned? Here I am on the board, and it's my responsibility to make a determination as to whether or not I should release you or not, or vote to release you or not. You have been convicted twice of domestic violence by strangulation. So why should I run the risk of letting you out in something like this happening again?
Because I've learned that it's not okay to try and impose your will on somebody. Everyone has a right to feel how they feel.
Why didn't you learn that the last time you took the domestic violence program?
I don't have a good answer for that.
Well, what concerns me is I was hoping maybe to say, oh, well, he's a drug addict or he's an alcoholic. These are the problems that I have. You say, no, that's not an issue with you, although DOC says you have a serious substance abuse issue. You say, no, that's not. So I guess it's just you're a mean and angry person. I'm trying to, what have you figured out since you've been in prison thinking about these things and these programs that you've taken? What is it that's caused you to do this?
My background has led me to have serious abandonment issues, has caused me to question my self-worth, giving me insecurities. And I believe those have caused me to lash out. Now that I'm speaking about it, that might be where the substance abuse diagnosis is coming from, based off of those insecurities and inferiority complex, maybe. Both of my parents left when I was very, very young. and I had to be raised by a surrogate parent.
Tell me about the write-up you had for fighting in April of 2022.
Yes, sir. I was in the TV room, and me and a fellow were watching Deadliest Catch. And with my experience in the Navy, I was trying to explain something about the rough seas, and he escalated it into an argument. At some point, he threatened me, so I stood and backed away. When I did that, he came at me, so I wrestled him to the ground until I could get away. I left, I went to my rack. He then came at me with a combination lock tucked away in his sock. I was able to avoid that and wrestle him to the ground again. The incident, the incident report states that never once did I hit him or attempt to retaliate against him. I simply subdued the threat and backed away. I never hurt him. I never inflicted pain upon him. I was in control, and I did what I could to protect myself. When I could escape, I did.
Tell me, you were enrolled in victim impact, victim awareness. Did you finish that program?
No, sir. I got about 3 weeks left.
Tell me what you've learned in that program. What do you believe your actions have had upon the victim in this case?
Long-lasting effect. This is something that she's probably going to carry with her for the rest of her life. She made a statement after my sentencing, and one part of it really affected me and still stays with me to this day. She told me that she went out on a date with a guy and tried to see somebody else and couldn't. And that made me feel really, really terrible. She's a good person, and she deserves to have that in her life. And if I took that from her, I can never give that back. And I'm sorry.
What have you learned from your anger management classes?
That it's okay to feel an emotion. It doesn't require an action. You can feel it, acknowledge it, and let it pass. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned.
How will you be able to control your anger in the future?
I think for me, at least, is to identify where it comes from, and that separation issue and the abandonment issues and the insecurities. To understand that it comes from that gives me a better way of dealing with it when it does arise, and allows me to step back and be like, you know what, maybe it is me and it's not them that I feel angry.
What can you tell us, Warden, if anything, about Mr. Dubourg?
Well, Mr. Maribel, obviously, I would like to see him complete the impact class that he's in right now in the job life class. Also, we have our thinking for a change class. I think that he needs that to help him learn, deal with his anger issues a little more, because they've obviously been an issue all his life, and still, and I think he's trying to figure out ways to understand it. But and also, I mean, you in my records, I show that he does not have a history of substance abuse. I didn't know about the 2 DWIs, but so obviously I would have recommended substance abuse training as well, because that's probably got a lot to do with things. So
Thank you, Warden. I appreciate your comments. Any questions? Now let's hear from Miss Vicki Johnston.
Hello, am I unmuted?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Thank you. If you'll introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know, please.
Hello, I'm Vicki Johnston, the most recent victim of Jeremy Dubourg. And I just pray that you will deny him and help keep the women in Louisiana a little bit safer for a few more years. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. Dr. Robert Melton.
Hi, my name is Robert Melton. I am the oldest son of Vicki Johnston. And she just asked that I speak on her behalf because I've been very involved in this whole thing since it began. I know I've written my statement. You guys have reviewed it. I am in opposition of Mr. Dubourg's release. He stated, you know, the lasting impact that he fears my mom will experience, and she has been experiencing. Shortly after everything, with the state of Louisiana's help, I moved her out to New Mexico, where she lived with me for a period of about 1.5 years or so. And then I've recently moved again, and I brought her along with me. Throughout the entire time, we have put in significant measures to make sure that she remains safe. We limit her information online. We have purchased security systems, which I monitor frequently. We are in the process of changing her phone number because she still has residual fear and effects of what I would say are very similar to PTSD. So when Mr. Dubourg mentioned the very repetitive phone calls, text messages threatening her, those effects still linger. When she gets a call from an unknown number or a spam, it's an immediate sense of fear. Is that him trying to contact her? So this is something that I think she will have to live with forever. You know, we're in the process of moving her again. We'll have a PO box set up. We don't give her address out to people. She rarely posts on social media, which is a big change from her past. So we're doing everything we can to try to give her a sense of security, but I think unfortunately that has been impaired and will remain impaired for a very long time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Myers.
Good afternoon, Ernie Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish, and we have a strong opposition to Mr. Dubourg's release on parole. My impression of his comments to the panel, based on y'all's questions, is that he wasn't being completely honest with you. He was limiting what he was willing to tell you to, I guess, make it sound a little bit better for him. He's got a history of domestic abuse and very little programming. As the warden said, he needs additional programming. He's thinking for a change. He needs some more help to get him over this. Only programs I've seen in the record was pre-release and one anger management course. He does have a low risk assessment, but substance abuse is high, as well as mental health is moderate, and that's concerning to me. There's a Department of Corrections letter in the record that talks about his programmings and the things he's done. Vocational programs and self-improvement programs, they have not applicable. And I didn't see that he's taken much with regard to that. Very strong victim opposition. We think he should be denied at this point. Oh, and I will say on his prior, when you were asking him about his prior domestic abuse conviction, I was looking some things up in the record, and it's somewhat limited, so I wasn't able to get all the information I was looking for. But there was a rule to revoke that was filed, but eventually dismissed. And it was filed because he failed to complete and even enroll in a domestic violence program. I'm assuming that was eventually completed, because the rule was dismissed. It was for that as well as for probation fees. Probation fees were in fact paid, and I assume that he did complete the domestic violence program. So for all those reasons, we're opposed to his request.
Thank you very much, Mr. Myers. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Dubourg, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before the board votes?
I do have a statement that I prepared that I'd like to read, but I'd also like to comment on Mr. Myers saying that there was a rule to revoke based on not completing the domestic violence program. That happened all during the COVID quarantine. So it eventually, the reason it took so long was to find a program that was willing to do it via Zoom.
I think he was talking about the first charge, which would have
Correct.
been before that was before COVID. This
No, sir.
charge was after, this charge was before COVID.
It was after.
So well, I thought your first domestic violence program where you were given probation occurred in 2019. And if that's the case, COVID wasn't until the next year.
Right. Vicky and I were dating while I was going through the program.
All right. Okay, go ahead, continue your statement.
Roger that. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're here today to determine if I should be granted parole. Today is extremely important to me, so I've prepared this letter to reflect that. I've worked very hard to get here, and I want to make the most out of this opportunity. Since the beginning of my incarceration, I have dedicated myself to becoming a better person. In pursuit of that goal, I started studying psychology and philosophy. Through the independent studies, I have learned a great many things as well as developed a deeper understanding of myself. One of the most important lessons I've learned is not every emotion requires a reaction. You can feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and then let it pass without ever taking any action. I've learned this is not only healthy, but oftentimes necessary. The second most important lesson learned is that since everyone's experiences and outlooks are unique, there are no right or wrong feelings. Everyone has the sovereign right to feel how they feel, and it is unacceptable to attempt to force anyone to feel differently. By not acknowledging or respecting these two ideals, I made a series of terrible choices that have led me here. What I did was wrong on many levels, not just the physical. One has no right to physically harm another, but just as important, no one has a right to impose their will upon another. I have come to understand this is a fundamental truth of the human experience. Another philosophy that has been instrumental in my rehabilitation is, as long as the man has a reason why, he can deal with any how. Every day of my incarceration has been an exercise in patience, understanding, and acceptance of opinions and attitudes that are often radically different than my own. That is the how. The reason why is my family, more specifically my daughter. Getting back to her, being a positive and daily influence in her life, is the heart of every decision I make. I plan on seeking therapy or counseling once I am released as part of an ongoing self-imposed rehabilitation. My goal is to become a role model worthy of my daughter's respect and admiration. I want her to be able to look at me and say, yes, he made a mistake, but he has admitted to it, paid for it, and put in the work to be a better person. I cannot change what I did. My actions that night are likely to remain with Vicky for the rest of her life. What I can do is express my sincerest regret and apologize for the pain that I caused. I can also assure her and everyone else that there is nothing to fear from me, and nothing like this will ever happen again. I feel I am the very epitome of the type of person the parole system was designed for. I have come to understand not only what I did was wrong, but why it was wrong. And I am deeply sorry to have inflicted that on anyone. I've also worked tirelessly on my rehabilitation classes and my educational classes, completing more in a year than most do their entire incarceration. I have a place to live and a job waiting for me. The keys for success are aligned here and now. Having gone through the probation process recently, I'd like to point out that I completed all the imposed requirements early, as well as paid off all fines and fees. I feel this further indicates that I'm a prime candidate for the successful completion of the parole process. In closing, I'd like to say that I'm not by nature a violent man. I'm not a danger to myself, Vicky, or society at large. What I am is a man that has made some really poor choices and put myself into some bad situations. Through my classes and independent studies, I have learned to better evaluate situations to come up with productive solutions. If I am granted parole, I promise to be a shining example of a parolee while I continue to implement these life changes. If I am denied, then the mission remains the same. Get back to my daughter, continue to work as hard as possible, and try to be a better man today than I was yesterday. Thank you for your time, your patience, this opportunity, and your careful consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Dubourg. Okay. Mr. Dubourg, I've listened to you talk with us today, and I have to say I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about your criminal history. You have a history of violence with women. This is your second domestic abuse battery involving strangulation. 2019, when you pled guilty, you were placed on probation. You were arrested shortly thereafter, after your sentencing, for a violation of a protective order. I've got no result as a result of that, but apparently that tells me something was still going on at that particular time. You tell me you took a domestic violence program. Those programs are pretty good. They're supposed to work very well. Apparently it did not work. Perhaps you need a lot more than what you've had so far. It sounds like on paper, and you read a very eloquent statement to us. You're a pretty intelligent man. I've seen in my experience as a prosecutor, a criminal defense lawyer, and a judge that oftentimes people who are violent, especially with women, on more than one occasion, they're very controlling and they're very manipulative. So I think that perhaps in your head, you got the information to be put down on paper and to express it to everyone. I just don't know if it's gotten into you as to what the problems are and how to be able to overcome them. You indicate to me that you've got no drinking problem, no drug problem. You got kicked out of the Navy because of paraphernalia. You got 2 DWIs. You say, oh, that was over 20 years ago. One was maybe 20 years ago. The other one was about 14 years ago. My experience tells me that if a person's been charged with 2 DWIs, they probably were drunk a lot more times and got away with it. Our DOC evaluation shows that you have a substance abuse issue, a high incidence of substance abuse. I believe you need more work. You're doing things, you're doing positive things. I think you're getting there. But in my opinion, and I'm just one vote, you need more work. I think you need more programs. As the warden suggested, thinking for a change, substance abuse. Those substance abuse programs will help you. As you say, well, maybe they think I have a substance abuse issue because of all of these other emotional issues I have. Well, substance abuse treatment will help you with those other addictions and those other treatments. So I'm just not ready to vote to grant the parole at this time. So my vote is to deny. I'm just one vote out of 3. So, Ms. Jackson.
Mr. Dubourg, I share my colleagues' concerns. I do think you need to move on. Truly do. I think you're making progress. I think you've gained some insight. I think that's important. You've gained some insight into why you respond the way that you do. But I think you need substance abuse treatment. I think you need victim awareness. I think we just need to keep working. And once you get some more programs, reapply when you're in.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
Young man, first of all, I want to thank Ms. Johnson and your son for the courage you took to show up today. You're doing well. You're doing better than you realize. You are doing well. But young man, I concur with my colleagues. Spend some more time reflecting. I hope you listened and you heard what was said today. You even heard what Ms. Johnson said, how she sees you now. And just kind of let that kind of impact how you begin to look at yourself to some extent. So my vote is to deny as well for the reasons I already stated on the record.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Dubourg, your parole has been denied today, but we encourage you to continue your work and look inwardly. And hopefully, maybe next time you might get a different result, but not today. Good luck to you.
Man, I wish I could see his face. It's just, it's so far away, you can't see anything. It really hurts the quality of the hearing, if you ask me. Maybe we can get it. We'll do one more hearing after this. There you go. That's not a bad snapshot of low self-esteem loser, huh? People who beat women, they just, I guess it's Roach is the worst, and then you beat women, it's the next. It's like, you gotta be such a loser. It's it's interesting to me how much it affected her, and how much it's still affecting her. The fact that she's had to leave the state, living with her son. She seems like it totally changed the course of her life. And it's just remarkable that, and she's like a strong, you get the feeling, a strong, independent woman who's made sure that he was prosecuted to the fullest. He went to trial. He had a jury. He was found guilty. So you have to assume, she went through the whole thing, and then even shows up at his parole hearing. So I guess that really, man, I don't even touch the microphone, and it's just stopping to work, and it's I just need to buy a new one. It's at the point where it's not even funny. It's actually just frustrating. And I'm going to need to do more programs because I'm pretty enraged by this dumb microphone. So, but yeah, I mean, he went after the wrong woman. So oftentimes there are these cases, but the woman, the spouse, the victim doesn't see it through, doesn't make sure that he goes to trial, doesn't make sure that he stays in parole. This is very rare. His biggest mistake is that he didn't target vulnerable, insecure women. He targeted someone who seems to be, from a great, by the looks of her son and by the look of her morals of wanting, she said, this is what he remembers, even what set him off. I don't want to be with a man who doesn't have a good relationship with their mother. And then that somehow turns into this crazy fight where and it's more than just a fight, but he's like a stalker, texting, calling, threatening, getting into the house, strangling. You know, it must have been to the point where she thought that she was going to die. I mean, that is the only, you know, it must have been that close, and that he gotten this charge. He must have been on the cusp of finishing her off. And it's not his first charge. And what Mr. Mirabella had brought up like a little bit is that he was given probation for the last person, and immediately after getting probation, he violated a protective order. So this guy's he's scary. He's really scary. And these are the kind of guys that you read about where, you know, his third victim is going to be his last because he's going to finish her off. And yeah, he didn't seem to have any insight. He didn't seem to really take what he did seriously. He's kind of lacking any real. And it's good to see someone go to prison for something like this. You don't see it often. It's interesting. He did appeal his habitual offender because I think it was only a 2-year sentence, and then he got 4 more years because he was considered an habitual offender, and he appealed it. And it seems that he won the appeal on the grounds that the sentencing judge was the one that had to say he was an habitual offender, and it was not the sentencing judge that slapped it on. And my guess is that then this sentencing judge said, "Oh, okay, here's habitual offender." So he winning the appeal, but not the war, so to speak. But I'll put the link in the description if you want to look at it. They didn't otherwise have details worth going over. It was interesting, her speech. I'm his most recent victim. Help keep the women of Louisiana safe and keep him locked up. He's got to be so much worse than we even saw at this hearing. That's my guess. I mean, my guess is that this guy is a brute. But okay, let's do the next hearing. Did we do this one? Let's just double check. Dylan D. Oliver, 77044. Dylan, yes, we did do Dylan D. Oliver. That was, we did this one, and that was the first cousin who did carnal knowledge with his underage first cousin. So that was a different couple. So hold on a second. Let me just pull this up. Sorry for the delay. If you're not watching this live, you can of course just fast forward to where we should be. Well, this one looks interesting. This one looks like Daniel Meyer versus Randy Meyer. The assistant DA against the parole project. Let's just make sure I didn't do it. Daniel Smith. Okay. Let's start up. On your marks. Get set. Go.
The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 2:33. Our next case is Mr. Daniel Smith. Mr. Smith, would you please give us your full name and your DOC number?
Daniel Smith, 130584.
Mr. Smith, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. And at the appropriate time, we will allow the participants who've indicated a willingness to speak to have their input. And those persons are supporting you, Mr. Kerry Myers, with the Louisiana Parole Project, Mr. Randall Meyer is in opposition from the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office. And at the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our process, sir?
Yes, sir.
This is a matter of Daniel Smith, DOC number 130584. Mr. Smith's date of birth is October the 9th of 1973. He is a second-class offender. He has a parole eligibility date of October the 9th of 2018, an adjusted good time date of January the 28th of 2043, and a full-term date of October the 18th of 2053. He's currently serving a 60-year sentence on 2 counts of armed robbery and 1 count of armed robbery after having been adjudicated a habitual offender. The sentencings were on May the 28th of 1993, as well as February the 7th of 1994 and June the 14th of 1994. Mr. Smith, does that sound basically correct to you?
Yes, sir.
Your case has been assigned to Ms. Pearl Wise. Would you please, she will begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Good afternoon.
Keep going, Ms. Pearl.
I understand that you're hard of hearing. I saw that in your record. Is that correct?
Ma'am.
So you're gonna have to speak up and move that mic close to you, and we can see, oh, you got something on that's gonna help. Good, good, good. All right, they're taking care of it. Good, good. And call out for the record how old you are today.
49.
You're 49. And how long you been in jail on this charge?
November of this year will be 31.
31 years.
Yes, ma'am.
On what's your sentence? 31 years on a, what's your sentence? 60 years, 60 years. All right. Do you remember when you first got arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you?
Just turned 19.
No, I'm talking about as a juvenile. I'm talking about first got arrested.
16.
Nope, you was about 14. Well, because you hadn't had your birthday yet, July 16th of 1988 for a simple burglary. That's what the record shows.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. And then it wasn't charged. Then you got arrested August of 88, then September of 88, October of 88, November of 88. Got into drugs. It was damage to property, criminal charge. Civil criminal damage to property, possession of a stolen auto. You don't remember none of that? That's juvenile.
Semi, not too.
I understand.
Not too much, Ms. White.
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of bring you into perspective there, how long you've been in and out and fooling with crimes. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. You got 143 write-ups and it's 31 years. That's kind of high. That really is kind of high. Your last write-ups, tell us about them. August of 21. You had a 3 and a 5. You remember what happened?
Yes. As I explained to the warden yesterday, I made trustee in Angola, and I had been on the job for like 3 years, 4 years. And me and my boss ladies had got to develop a communication to where we was playful. And this morning here, security had walked down on us playing, and everybody got rolled up.
Oh, okay. And you only have 75 days of programs. Why? Why you don't have more programs?
I have everyone that I have every class that's basically necessary.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if
Yeah, because usually, you can get up to 300 days of programs. It's kind of something that I look at. You do have a lot of certificates for other things, but the So you feel like you've taken everything you need to take? That's what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
You did have living in balance in 2019. You had thank you for a change. I do see that.
Wise. Ms. Wise,
Yes, sir.
this is, those were records. He wasn't eligible for any kind of good time before 2017, 11/1/17. So it's only gonna reflect the 75 days from.
I cannot hear you. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
You're breaking out.
He was only eligible for CCRP credits after 11/1/17, after the law.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay,
only gonna reflect what he had after.
okay. All right, thank you for explaining that. Okay, because that sure looks fun. All right, and this, you had a hearing in March 12th of 2019. You had 2 grants and 1 denied. You remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, we like to look at how you've been doing since your last hearing. And that's why that write-up is, is rather concerning. You currently enrolled in victim impact, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How's it going?
I'm learning
Going good?
a lot.
You're learning a lot. I'm glad to hear that. And I do want, and this is something that's concerning for me. You were on supervision for an armed robbery when you committed this armed robbery. You got put on supervision 10/10 of 92, and then you got revoked May 18th of 93. So you didn't do well on supervision. And that's concerning for me. Tell me what you're gonna do different. If you're on supervision this time, what you gonna do different?
Oh, I'm gonna work this time. This time I'm as wise, I'm 49. I'm not 19 anymore. And I have a different mind state. I have, I understand responsibilities now. I understand freedom. I understand that, as a man, you have certain aspects in life that I learned patience. I understand self-discipline now. I'm not the same 19-year-old.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. That is really good to hear. That's and on your education, how have you coming on your GED?
I got my GED in Louisiana Penitentiary in 2002.
In 2000, okay, good. I feel like I saw that, but I wasn't sure. And I do want to state for the record that you did get a letter of commendation for CPR 11/22 of 2012. Well done. Are you still CPR certified?
Yes, ma'am. I'm still certified. I was the instructor before I left, but yes, I'm still certified until 24.
Okay, good. Oh, that's really, really good to see. And that shows that you're starting to care about people. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. I think I saved a life at that time. So that's what the recommendation came from. Yes, ma'am.
You said you think you did.
Yeah, I saved a life.
The accommodation didn't say whether you did or didn't. I didn't want to ask, but okay. Okay.
He was
And
alive.
no, right? Good. Because sometimes, you can do all that and they don't make it. So that's why I didn't want to talk about it. Now, you were on the working cell block in 2015. So I just want to state this for the record. So you hadn't had any write-up since 2015 besides that one in 2021. So you had demonstrated a great deal of improvement in terms of your write-ups. You do have law enforcement opposition. There's nothing you can do about that. So tell me about your release plans. If you're successful today, where would you live and how would you support yourself?
I'm basically requesting to go to a transition house upon my release. But after the transition house, I have my sister's address in Fort Worth, Texas. I also have an associate of mine who has a trucking company, Around the Clock Trucking, who already has it assigned for me to go back to school from 0 to 9 months with experience and get my CDL. Once I get my CDL, he'll put me on out of state. Told me I have the choice between in-state or out of state. He chose out of state because I wouldn't have to deal with the red lights and the traffic. So once I come out of school, I'll get my CDL. Once I get my CDL, I'll be on that highway, Ms. Wise.
And you thinking about moving to Dallas, right? Going with your sister in Fort Worth after you get the transition house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there was sometime you were in Arkansas. What was that about? You lived in Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
What was that about? When did you live in, when did you live in Arkansas?
I never lived in Arkansas.
Okay, okay, what I was seeing. All righty, that's all I got to ask of you. Warden, what can you share with us about this, Mr. Smith?
Well, I mean, my only recommendation, Ms. Wise, on Daniel is that I'd like to see him complete the victim impact work he's in right now.
Okay. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you, Warren. Now let's hear from Mr. Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project.
Yes, good afternoon. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We want to just let the board know that we're here to provide transitional services to Mr. Smith. We were actually aware of Mr. Smith, but one of our board members actually contacted us and asked us to support Mr. Smith after looking at his record, after looking at his programming, and looking at his long-term transitional plan. We thought Mr. Smith would be an excellent candidate for our transition program. We want to be able to provide him the services that he's going to need after 31 years of incarceration, and prepare him for that next step when he does move out of state. So he will get the full advantage of our case management, of the programming, the technology, the financial literacy, social norms. He'll have his evaluations by our social worker. He'll have the coaching of a mentor who will help him through each step of this transition. So based on the totality of this plan, we'd ask that you grant Mr. Smith today.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. So Mr. Randall Meyer with we'll now hear from the opposition, Mr. Randall Meyer with the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office.
Good afternoon, Randall Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. And we're opposed to Mr. Smith. He has a very violent criminal history. He's currently incarcerated for 5 separate armed robberies that occurred when he was on good time. And what really concerns me is the 143 disciplinary reports that he's had following the last hearing. One of the reasons for his denial was prior disciplinary reports, and he had another one after that. 2019 was the prior hearing because of multiple disciplinary reports, and he had one in 2021. I'm concerned with the limited programming he has had since 2019. I understand he couldn't get programming early on because of his sentence, but since 2019, he's not taking anything, so for the last 4 years. And it also concerns me that there's no family support here for him. That makes it a little bit more difficult, I think, when he is finally released to stay released. For those reasons, we're opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Smith, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes, after my 2019 parole hearing, I received I want to say Thank You for a Change came after 2019, as well as my substance abuse living in balance course 1 and 2.
Is there any other statement you'd like to make to the board before the board votes?
Yes, I'd just like the board to know and understand that, within these 31 years, I've grown. It's, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I just want to I just want a new opportunity. I'm not the same immature, naive young man that was 19 years old doing what he was doing. I just want the board to know that, I done matured, I done grew. I'm just asking the board for a new opportunity to prove that, I'm not the same. I'm different. I'm a new man. I'm a new creation with new mindset. And, I apologize for everyone that I ever hurt. I apologize for, my wrong. I apologize to my family for the hurt and pain that I caused them. And I just asked the board to just give me a shot. Just give me an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We appreciate your comments. Board ready to vote?
I recommend executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case.
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll. Yes.
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 There's been a request for executive session to discuss matters of a confidential nature. We're going to be at a brief recess. We will return with a decision in just a few moments.
Sorry, Randy. Blocking your beautiful face. What do you think they're gonna do? You think they're gonna parole? I gotta tell you, man, he's been locked up a really, 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 really long time. And it's crazy. We see people spend a decade less than he has spent for taking people's lives. Forget about the children thing. He just did the wrong crime. See, if he had hurt a child, he would have been out 30 years ago. 60-year sentence. 60-year sentence. And yeah, he's got hearing problems, and along with Miss Wise's interview style, it's kind of like you just had no idea what's going on. That's how at least I feel. It's 143 write-ups is brutal. But and you could say no family support. That reminded me about the no family support. I meant to say this. I had it in my notes for the previous case. The guy who likes strangling people. Defenseless woman, particularly, I should say. He had no family support show up. What's it? He had a daughter? He had nothing. Imagine that. When you're left at your parole hearing and no one shows up for you, you know you're doing something wrong. And in this case too, I mean, but he is a perfect candidate for the parole project, as long as, what else are you going to do? You're going to put him on more programs? I mean, this guy is clearly as institutionalized as it gets. He's been in prison for 31 years? Is that? I mean, his good time date, his full time date is 2053. He was, locked up in 94. I mean, it's just, 31 years he's been locked up. It's just like, are you kidding me? We could do another hearing after this, by the way. I'm doing it now. Let's see, we can do Dennis. Did we do that one yet? What do you think they're gonna do? I really don't know. We did that one. I really don't know what they're gonna do. I think it would be a mistake to not let him out. But this is a long wait. Normally they don't wait this long. You want me to just skip ahead? Let's skip ahead. Maybe they're having lunch. Yeah, I wonder what they're doing.
how much time you served, just a lot of look and, I usually don't, yes.
Roll is called back. The committee on parole is called back to order. The time is 2:56. Is the board ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Smith, I usually don't say this on the board, but I'm a retired probation parole officer. And, your disciplinary, it just was really concerning for me. I try to look past 2021, but look at the totality, how much time you served, just a lot of factors for me. And like you kept on saying, though, you are at that age where if you ain't gonna get it right, you probably won't get it right. You're in your 40s, you're not a youngster now. So that tells me that you know right from wrong now. You got sense enough to know right from wrong.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What you do, that's all it's in your control. So I'm gonna take a chance on you. My vote is gonna be to grant conditionally after you complete that victim impact program. Due to your good programming, and that CPR certification that you got, your good programming overall, and the time served and your age. To the Louisiana Parole Project. I want you to stay there for a sufficient amount of time until they determine that you've done enough time. And I concur with the transfer to Texas after that. I'm just one vote, but best wishes to you now.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Ms. Jackson?
All right, let me just start by saying that I think I have some Myers overload today. I got Carrie Myers, I got Randy Myers, I got Ward Myers. It's almost too much for me today. A lot of Myers.
Nobody noticed.
But, Mr. Smith, I listen, a lot of times the way a person looks on paper is one way, and then when you talk to them and you listen to them, you get a better picture of them. And I think that happened for me today with listening to you. Looking at you on paper, it would have been easy. Nah, not. No. But I really think you have gotten it. You've turned the corner. You've been in prison for 30 years. You have the support of the parole project. I think that I feel comfortable that your life of crime has come to an end. So my vote today would be to grant upon completion of victim impact and approval of your Texas ICOT and a grant to the Louisiana Parole Project.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. My vote is the same. I concur. So you've been conditionally granted to completing victim impact, and then your ICOTS Texas after you complete the Louisiana Parole Project. Good luck to you, sir.
Yeah, that is a lot of Myers. I think we once have had 4 Myers on the screen at the same time. Because there's also an attorney for the parole project with the last name Myers, I believe. It's, I don't know, for some reason, a really common name in the Louisiana parole. I like what Miss Jackson said. Sometimes you see different person and then on paper, and let's be real, he's institutionalized. Like, he's not even going to recognize the world that he steps into. He won't. 1994. It's a different world. When he got locked up, he was still using, they're still using tape decks, and I think they're coming out with the Walkmans too. CD player, maybe, I'm not sure if they had it yet. It had been a little later. But literally, he's going to step outside and just be like taking a time machine. I'm happy the parole project is helping him. It's, yeah, I mean, what he did back then was crazy. He did an armed robbery, was out on parole, did another armed robbery. But he's been locked up for longer, more time than people who have taken lives. And it's just, you know, the idea that the assistant district attorney would still want to keep him locked up is just annoying. What's another program going to do, please? Anyways, that's really all I can add to it. Let's jump into this hearing. This one is an armed robbery, I believe. Let's see how long it is. It's about 3:12 to 3. It's about half an hour. Okay, let's jump in.
Okay, well, the Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 11:17. Our next case is going to be Mr. Kenneth Sims. Mr. Sims, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Kenneth Sims, today is 6/7.
Mr. Sims, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then at the appropriate time, we're going to ask those persons who indicate they wish to have input to speak. Speaking on your behalf today is Mr. Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project, as well as your daughter, Miss Kristen Miller. Also present but not speaking is Corey Ferguson, Kayla Barton, Tashika Hill, Rosalind Williams, Quanti Lee, Jacqueline Holmes, Gary Sims, and James Westmoreland. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a statement to the board before we vote. Do you understand our procedure, sir? I didn't hear you.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, good. I'm having a little difficulty hearing, so if you could speak up a little bit, I'd appreciate it, okay?
Okay.
This is the matter of Kenneth M Sims, DOC number 108657, date of birth, July the 24th of 1960. He's a third-class offender. He has a parole eligibility date of August the 11th of 2007, an adjusted good time date of 3/20 of 2062, and a full term date of September 17th of 2062. He is currently serving a 75-year sentence on the charge of armed robbery after having been adjudicated a habitual offender and sentenced on September the 14th of 1988. Mr. Sims, is that information all accurate?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Sims, your case has been assigned to me to begin our interview process, so I would appreciate your answering my questions if you would, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Sims, I show that you're currently 60 years old and you're about to be 61 in a couple of days. Is that right?
Right. That's right.
How long have you been in prison on these charges, Mr. Sims?
Like 37, 36, 37 years.
30, approximately 37 years?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background. How far did you go in school?
Well, to 8th grade, I was a special ed. Since I've been here, I've been in school since I've been here, but my health come down over and I had to get out of school because my health problem. But I've been in school since I've been here.
Did you ever get your GED?
No, sir.
You've been working on it all this time, but you haven't been able to get it?
Right, right. I had Dr. Sanders that gave me a letter, and he took me to his office, told me, he said, everybody ain't gonna get a GED off his Sim. He didn't want me to quit school. He told me stay in school, just stay in it. But everybody wasn't gonna achieve a GED.
So you've been in for 37 years. So how old were you when you came into prison this time?
25.
Tell me about Kenneth Sims at 25 years old. Were you working at that time?
Yes, sir.
What kind of work were you doing?
Construction. I worked at Georgia Pacific.
You worked at Georgia Pacific?
Yes, sir.
How long did you work there?
Well, I was doing similar work there, the job just got finished, right before I got the charge, my job that I was doing, it just got completed.
Where were you living? Who were you living with at the time?
I was living in Ethel, Louisiana.
In Ethel?
Yes, sir.
Who were you living with? Do you have any children?
Yes, sir. I have four children.
How old are your children now?
My oldest is 43. Like a 43-year-old, my 42, he passed away. My oldest daughter is like 34. 38, she 30, she's 36. Okay.
So you had 4 children when you committed this crime? They were all young?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about drugs or alcohol. Were you using drugs or drinking alcohol back then?
I was doing drinking. I really didn't have a drug problem. I could drink a little alcohol.
Okay, well, let's talk about, I'll decide whether you had a drug problem or not, okay? Did you use drugs back then?
I really, every now and then I smoke a little weed, that was it.
Okay. About how often would you smoke a little weed?
It wasn't no regular thing. Every now and then, depends on who I was getting around.
How about alcohol? How often were you drinking alcohol?
I drink a little beer every day.
Okay. How much beer would you drink every day?
It wasn't a hell of a lot. I mean, I didn't get drunk, piss drunk. I wasn't nothing like that. I just drinking the beer, coming off from work, might stop and drink, get something on the way home from work.
Did you drink beer every day? How many beers did you drink every day?
I'd maybe say a 6-pack.
A 6-pack every day?
Yes, sir.
And how long did you drink a 6-pack every day? Were you drinking a 6-pack every day up until the time you committed this crime?
No, sir. No, sir. Like when we come home from work, we stop and get us something to drink. We did coming home from work like that,
Well, I understand. I'm not suggesting you were drunk at the time you committed this crime. My question is, at the time you committed this crime, at the age of about 25 years old, were you drinking a 6-pack every day?
No.
All right. Have you ever had any substance abuse treatment? Have you ever had any classes involving alcohol or substance abuse?
Yes, sir.
What have you had?
Sorry?
Did you say you're in right now, in class right now?
I'm in living in balance right now.
You're in living in balance right now. How long have you been in living in balance?
I think this is like the 5th week. This is like the 5th week.
What have you learned from living in balance? What does it tell you about your drinking a 6-pack every day?
Well, I mean, it ain't something that we should be doing. It's not normal for us to drink every day like that. But it's being occasion they say, it don't hurt.
Well, let me ask you this: how much, if you were to get out of prison, if you were to get an early release, how much would you drink then?
When I get a release,
how often would you drink when you get out?
Well, right now I don't need nothing to drink. I get out, I'm gonna be so happy. I won't nothing to drink. I mean, I just need.
Well, I hear that. Right now, as you sit here, you're happy. You hope to get out. You won't need anything to drink. But my question to you is: do you think that you'll go back to drinking a couple of beers a day, a 6-pack a day, or something like that?
No, sir. No, sir.
Well, what do you think you'll be drinking? How often will you drink?
Well, like I said, we get together like a family, we get together barbecue or something like that. I probably drink a beer or something like that, but of course, drinking,
So you don't believe that you should totally abstain from alcohol?
Right, I don't need alcohol.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but you're still going to go out and drink a little bit. Do you think you're an alcoholic?
No, sir. No, sir.
Let's talk, Mr. Sims, about this crime on August the 7th of 1987, where you and 2 other guys beat, robbed Mr. Joe Howard. Tell me what happened. Tell me how that came about.
Well, I remember I went to a ballpark. I watched the game and, the two guys that I was with, they walked up to me, we started talking. After we started talking, then they started telling me something about something that the plan that they had. I listened to it,
What was the plan that they had?
To burglarize. It wasn't a robbery, the plan was they was supposed to burglarize. So when we get to the place, somebody is in the place. But it wasn't never a robbery. So when I went along with them, left them all, I went along with them, and we ended up being there one for the that's my worst night.
Mr. Sims, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you get closer to that microphone? Take that little mask off your face. I know it's not on your mouth, but it might be affecting you. I'm having very difficult hearing you, and I want to hear everything that you say.
Okay.
So tell me what happened. You and your two friends, they had a plan. You were going to burglarize. You got there, apparently there was a man inside. What happened then?
Right, we went inside. We went inside.
You need to look up because you're talking down and I can't hear you.
All right. One of the guys stayed in the front room, and I went in the back room. She was fine. When I come back out the back room, the other guy that I left in the room with the guy, he was stabbing the guy. So when I see him stabbing the guy, I walked up, tell him what you doing. So he's stabbing me. So,
How old was the man in the house?
he was in age. I don't know his age.
All right, 88 years old is what he was. You realized he was an old man?
He was in age.
All right, and then what happened? Then what happened?
Well, when I come out, when I come out the back room, the other guy, I seen him stabbing the guy. So I seen him stabbing the guy. I got everything. I grabbed him. I grabbed his hand when he stabbed him. And I said, "What you doing?" And me and him got into it because he stabbed this man. This was never supposed to happen. And I just lost it after I seen him do that. I lost it because that was never supposed to happen. And after that, we left. Went to Baton Rouge, and it was never supposed to happen. So that was my worst night. I should never even went along with that. I regret that. I regret that from.
Mr. Sims, prior to this, at 25 years old, you had a long history of crime. You had a number of arrests. You had history of burglaries, violence, 11 total arrests. You tell me it wasn't drug or alcohol related. So why were you committing all of this crime?
Well, you said 11 arrests. I've been arrested for aggravated battery. I had aggravated battery. That gives me and my brother had a fight. Then I had a theft charge. That's the only charges I had.
All right, well, let's talk about that. You weren't arrested in 1980 for simple burglary, 3 counts of simple burglary, felony theft, misdemeanor theft, and resisting an officer?
No, sir.
1980?
No, sir. I wasn't me.
It's not you?
No, sir.
1981, you weren't arrested by the sheriff's office for simple burglary, no driver's license, proper equipment on vehicles?
I got arrested for driving, but no driving license, but I ain't never had no burglary.
Okay, same rap sheet, same person, same date of birth, 9/18/1983, aggravated burglary with a dangerous weapon. Apparently that's the case you were talking about. That's you?
Say again?
And then theft in 1985, another aggravated burglary in 1985. And then these armed robbery charges. That's not you? You didn't get all those charges?
In 1985, I was incarcerated in 85. I had 2 years.
Yeah, you were booked at Elaine Hunt Correctional Center. That's right.
Right. I had a theft
So
charge.
tell me why all of the arrests and why all of the crime. If alcohol wasn't involved, why did you do those things?
Sir, I had 2 arrests. I got arrested for driving with no driving license. But I had a burglary charge, I had a theft charge, And I had a battery charge. Them all the charges I ever had. I only been locked up with no driving license. I haven't been locked up anything else.
Well, what caused you to get the battery charge?
Me and my brother got in a fight. My brother was way bigger than me. I'm the one called the police. My brother didn't call the police because me and him got in a fight. I couldn't beat him. He's out of work. So we got in a fight and we wouldn't stop. I called the police. And I called the police come, I was there when the police came. And because I hit him with something, they took me to jail. My brother picked me up when I got out of jail.
Mr. Sims, since you've been in prison, you've had 91 write-ups. Why? Why so many write-ups?
The judge was for, I think, for work offenses. And when I was up there, sir, I was up there from robbing someone that lived down the street from the warden of Angola. He lived down the street from him. After he found out who I was, I had a problem with him. Every time something happened in camp, they write me up for it because I lived there. The man lived down the street from the warden. After he found out who I was, I mean, I had trouble with him.
When you were arrested for this crime, you were actually out on supervision, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
The theft and aggravated battery. That was revoked as a result of this new crime.
Yes, on the battery charge. That's why I had the aggravated battery and theft charge. I had 2 and 2.
On October the 6th of 2022, which was maybe 8 months ago, 8 months ago, you had a hearing, parole hearing, and you were denied based upon the fact that you needed more programs and your criminal history and your write-ups. So tell me what programs you've taken since your last denial, which was in October of 2022. You're in living imbalance. What other programs have you taken?
Victim awareness. I had the victim awareness since then. And because a lot of programs shut down during that time, they had COVID was going on.
Well, I don't. Tell me what programs you've taken. You took victims' rights program that was in April of 2022. What else have you taken? Actually, you took the victims' rights program before your last denial. So what have you taken since your last denial? I don't show any, frankly. I may have missed them. You got a couple of certificates in there, but all of those certificates are old. So tell me what you've done, what programs you've taken since your last denial, which was in October of 2022. Because one of the reasons you were denied is because you needed more programs.
Right.
So what have you taken since then, besides the fact that you're in living imbalance?
Well, a lot of programs shut down. They didn't have. They just started.
I'm not concerned about why you didn't take them. I will get to that. What programs have you taken? All I show is living imbalance, and I show you finished that, or maybe you'll finish it. You just finished, right?
Yeah.
Everything else you took was before your last hearing, which was October the 6th of 2022. And one of the reasons you were denied is because you didn't have sufficient programs. So what have you done since then?
Well, I have all the certificates I got to get. I mean, I can't get no more certificates. I got all of them. But
well, tell me about anger management. You took that in 2012. It was suggested that you take more programs. They got cage your rage. They got all kinds of anger management programs. They all got all kinds of substance abuse programs. You deny you have a drinking problem, yet you were drinking a 6-pack every day before you committed this crime. So what programs have you taken since this board said to you last time, one of the reasons we're not letting you out is because you need more programs? What have you done besides living in balance?
But that's what I said. They shut down all the programs. And all the programs that was open, that was to me, I came in and I got them.
I accept the fact that you took maybe what you can take, but
Right. They should
I'm
have.
not sure that's sufficient.
Okay.
So I'm asking.
All the program that's open, that's to me. I went
What
into.
is your plan? What is your plan to stay sober when you get out of prison?
So I got a bunch of grandchildren. I'm not doing no drinking. I don't need nothing to drink. All I need is my grandchildren and me a chance to get out of here and prove myself.
Mr. Sims, just a few minutes ago, you told me that, yeah, you drank at family events and this and that. So you still intend on going back to having some alcohol, whether it's a couple of beers or whatever it is. That tends to lead to other things. You don't believe that's a problem for you?
Sir, I'm 60 years old. Ain't nothing in the street for me, sir. Ain't nothing out there for me. I mean, anything out there's right there at my house. I don't
Mr. Sims, I'm 76 years old. I've got friends older than me who are alcoholics, and they have to be careful every day. I get the impression you're not cognizant, you're not aware of your drinking and your substance abuse issues. Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Sims?
Oh, Mr. Sims, he doesn't present himself very well, and he's been incarcerated a long time, and for a long time, he didn't really do anything to help himself for a long time. And I guess because he didn't have a parole eligibility date, he just kind of was, institutionalized, for lack of a better word, for a long time. Him and I spoke a good bit, and I think he understands that he has a substance abuse problem, but I don't think he just hasn't had enough of the treatment to really understand what he needs. He's finished living in balance phase 1. He's still enrolled in phase 2. I'm hoping by the time he finishes phase 2, he'll have a little better understanding about his substance abuse problem. And I think he needs to continue on that path for substance abuse treatment, even if he is in here or he gets out. I think he needs to continue that. But he hasn't had a ride up in several years. He's doing well. I think he has some medical issues that he's been dealing with a lot, which may have hindered him from getting into more programs.
Thank you, Ward. Appreciate your comments.
What are his medical issues?
I have lupus. I have facial arthritis, and I just been diagnosed with cancer.
What type of cancer, do you know?
Skin cancer. Skin cancer.
And when did you receive that diagnosis? When did they tell you that?
About the cancer?
Yeah, when,
About maybe 2 months ago.
are you receiving any treatment for it?
Well, they just put me on a radiation pill. I take them out, down the radiation pill. I take like 6 pills a week until my body gets used to it. But it's just my health problem is coming down on me so much, Jack.
All right. Thank you. Sorry to hear about your issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Now we'll hear from Mr. Kerry Myers.
Yes. Good morning, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Sims is a client of Parole Project. As you know, he's been incarcerated for 37 years and he's now 60 years old. His diagnosis has presented a recent change in his reentry plan. We still plan on receiving Mr. Sims into our program. However, his original plan was going to be to go to Texas to live with family there. Because of his medical condition, because of his recent diagnosis, Mr. Sims will stay here in Louisiana, and once he is finished in residence with us, we will first of all, we will help him connect to all his medical resources, but he will live here in Zachary while he's still undergoing treatment with a relative and with his aunt, actually. with his cousin. And so we want to be able to do two things when Mr. Sims comes in here. We'll obviously give him the benefit of the full capabilities of our program because he's been incarcerated for 37 years. That'll also include mental health and substance abuse assessments, which, you know, we would then determine any recommendations from those. Besides that, like I said, we will ensure that he does get connected to follow up with a continuity of his medical care, particularly with this new diagnosis, based on his time served and we understand that Mr. Sims may be lacking a program here, there, but he has taken victim awareness, he has taken anger management, he has taken 100 hours. He is currently still in living in balance, completing phase 2. We would just ask this board, all things considered, to grant his parole today.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Ms. Kristen Miller.
Good morning. My name is Kristen Miller, and I'm Mr. Sims' oldest daughter here in support of his release. I fully understand the nature and the severity of his offense, but I do believe that he is not the same person he was all those years ago. Now I'm 40 years old, and so he's been incarcerated for nearly my entire life. However, he has maintained a relationship with our siblings and I our entire lives. So I know his personality, and I've seen the switch in his mindset over the last several years. I've seen him go from being angry at the world to being more calm and collected and just happy to have a chance to live another day. He now actively listens more and takes criticism in a more constructive manner. All he wants these days are to spend time with his family. His risk to society is almost non-existent at this point because of his health. It started to severely decline. There are many days where he can't even get out of bed. And even on the days when he can get out of bed, he's so weak that moving around is minimal. He has a strong support system to help him through the process. My siblings and I were all leaders at Fortune 500 companies, so his financial expenses will be covered by us. His siblings, his aunts, uncles, and cousins, they're all prepared to go the extra mile to do whatever is needed to support him. So whether that's going to a doctor visit, to work, visits with his parole officer, or even AA or substance abuse counseling, we'll make sure that he gets there and back. We just ask that you allow him the opportunity to spend some time with his family before he has none left. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Sims, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
That's right. So I've been gone a long time. When I first come in this system, I was a kid. I thought I was a grown man. Well, age don't make you a man. I've grown up since I've been young. I know I'm not the same person. I just need a chance. I wish I could change the night that brought me, but I can't. I did it a million times. I can't change it. I wish I could, but I know I'm a changed man. The system works. The system helped me. I know it helped me. I just need a chance to prove it to you. Because so there's no way. And I can talk with any kid and tell a kid what they're doing. Keep on. This is not the place to be. I mean, it's just, everybody not gonna get it, but this is not the place to be. When I first come in, I was told, my mind was gone. Not like I'm a grown man now. If I knew what I knew back then, what I know now, I wouldn't be there. But I can't change my past, sir. Sorry for what I did. I wish I could change that, but I can't. I just wish the board would give me a chance. I just wish the board just take consider, just give me a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. We appreciate your comments. Is the board ready to vote? All right. There's been a request for executive session. Is there a second? Please call the roll. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
We are going to be at a brief recess to go into executive session to discuss matters of a confidential nature. We will resume as soon as we have resolved those issues.
All I gotta say is that they better grant this man. But you almost think for sure, of course they will. But remember, he was just denied 9 months ago. We must have that hearing because I was covering the cases in October and I just didn't have the same management system. I wasn't putting in a DOC number, so I can't search it up. I'd have to manually search it. But that's why you just don't know. You don't know. I would just say, if you needed a cherry on the top, it's his daughter who came out to speak, and man, if you want to look at your glass half full too, he's been inside of prison his whole life, but his kids are all leaders in Fortune 500 companies, according to his daughter. So, I mean, man, you can be proud. You can be real proud. You still have a legacy, even though you've been locked away your entire life. What are they discussing? Let the man out. I think the warden summed it up as good as anyone can. He said, for lack of better words, this man is institutionalized. That's what we're looking at. You have Mr. Mirabella coming at him on this whole addiction thing, and he just doesn't even understand what's being said to him. You would think all this time and all this, but oh, good, we're back.
Okay, we're back on the record. It's 11:47. Mr. Sims, I'm a little concerned about some of your answers, especially the alcohol. I think you've got an issue with alcohol that you don't recognize. I think the warden pointed that out as well. I think you need some understanding of that. You've got a good support system. Your family is there for you. The Louisiana Parole Project is there for you. I think there are a lot of things in place that can help you. I am cognizant now of your medical condition. You do have adamant law enforcement opposition, and you do have adamant victim opposition. They wrote letters. They're very concerned about your getting out. You have been in prison for a long time. You're 60 years old. I'm sitting here telling you that ain't that old, but you do have some medical conditions, and I do understand that. So having said all of those things, I think that you're set up for the future pretty well, especially with the parole project, and especially with your family. So my vote today would be to grant conditionally upon your finishing the Living in Balance program, that the second part that you're currently in. And once you finish that program, you'll be released to Louisiana Parole Project. Follow all of their recommendations. And that would be, and go to do your treatment and have your family assist you in taking care of you. That would be my vote. That's just one. Ms. Jackson?
All right, my vote is the same. I concur. You have been in prison for 37 years. Given your health and your physical condition, I don't feel that you pose a continuing threat, and you do have a good support system. So my vote today would be to grant.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Conditional grant upon completion of the second phase of Living in Balance.
Ms. Wise?
Mrs. Sims, I was on your panel on October the 6th of 2020. I voted hope, I gave you a hope vote on that day. It was, I did vote to grant. And one of the things that you said, if you got moved to Hunt in 2016, and you had a few write-ups in 2018, and your write-ups did decrease after you got to Hunt. So that, you got one in 2020, but it was dismissed. So it kind of confirms some of the things that you said about yourself, how you observed yourself. So my vote is the same to grant. I just want to commend your daughter for how well she presented today. You did something right to have a daughter, have children that supports you. We don't see that very often after 37 years. That's one, and they saw the change in you. So my best wishes to you, sir. My vote is the same for the same reasons. State
All
for the
right.
record.
You have 3 votes to grant your parole as soon as you have completed the Living in Balance program. You'll be going to Louisiana Parole Project. Good luck to you. Sir.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Mic check. There goes my microphone again. I don't even touch it. It goes. I know I'm getting a new one. I'm traveling. So it's like, where do I order it? You know? So I need to wait till I get back. And yes, at first I got a wire for it because I thought a new wire would work, but that's not working. I think it's about 2 years old. I haven't been using it that long. It's more like I bought it 2 years ago, and then not even for this. I bought it for other things. It's been locked up 37 years. So yeah, where I got lost, I don't think the life was taken. And whether you can believe his story or not, he went in for the robbery. He saw his buddy stabbing him. He freaked out. I don't know. We don't have anyone else that was there to say that that's not true. We've seen people lie completely about things like that. If you feel like you want to give him the credit for it, then that's up to you. You can make your own choice, I suppose. But we have seen people go into robbery things, and their buddy that they goes and pulls out a weapon, and everything changes, and they claim to have no idea that it happened. We have seen it happen plenty of times, and that's just pretty much the way of the game, so to speak. But yeah, Miss Wise hit it on the head there at the end. It's pretty amazing that he has his children, and whether he had something to do with it, or they're just being loyal to him because he's a father. I don't know the answer, but Miss Wise said he did something right, and yeah, that's a pretty incredible story to grow up without a father. And the ultimate thing, speaking, we've seen people in prison that sound, that are super intelligent and sound sophisticated, and somehow being locked up, but still can sound normal, if that's crazy to think. And in this case, like the woman, for lack of a better word, he's institutionalized. This man wasn't sure if he was hearing a word Mr. Arabella was saying. It's funny to bring up the whole addiction thing. He's been locked up for 37 years, you know. Yeah, maybe he was, but come on, he's not a normal 60 years old either. He's been in prison 37 years, 60-year-old man. He looked like he's really close to the 90s, really. And with all these elements and everything, it's just, even if you really go and get it on the first thing that he does, it's hard to not say, because as long as you're not getting in the car, it's like you think that he's going to go and do something, but like he's actually kids who have low-paying jobs and problems that they have to wait and anything. Yeah, mic check, mic check. So stupid. Oh my gosh, you saw me waving my mic. Yeah, I need cage my rage and anger management, and I need more programs because I'm about to throw this microphone through the. There's nothing more frustrating than it's like you tap it with your finger and it shuts off. That doesn't even make sense. Anyways, what? God, that was loud. Sorry if I freaked you out. I have these tabs open and they play in the background. You know what really frustrates me also, I'll tell you, is in my YouTube dashboard, every single time I click into my YouTube dashboard, it automatically plays the YouTube hearing that I have featured on my channel. There's no button that can stop it. And it is the worst UI experience. And I say YouTube, it doesn't make sense. It's a channel that I run. I've obviously seen that YouTube video by now 8 trillion times, at least the first 5 seconds of it, until I have to go and hit stop. It shouldn't auto run. It doesn't make sense. It's a defect in your design. I shouldn't have to log into my dashboard, and the very first thing I do is click stop and mute. It's very aggravating, as you can tell. I needed to get that off my chest. Anyways, that's just one of many things that YouTube is really, really nuts on. I mean, for a company to be so successful and to be run by the really, I think it's like, it's just, I guess, a lack of competition or something, but they just don't care about the details, or no one who's working in YouTube actually uses YouTube. I mean, there's so many things about YouTube that is so broken, and it doesn't seem that they care to try to fix it. It's very frustrating. Anyways, first world problems, right? Please do the YouTube thing, because hey, YouTube wants it, and it actually does help the algorithm. But with that, I'll let you go.